The American church really is gay.
Are you asking me out on a date?
Effeminate.
The Bible appears more to whisper when it comes to sexual sin.
Shallow.
I said, I want the African American 7.
And full of cowardly leaders.
Are we going to keep bickering over secondary issues?
America desperately needs to return to the Father. Either we fall on the rock and are broken, or we fall on the ground and are crushed under that rock. To fall on top of the rock and be broken is exactly the condition in which God brings reformation and revival. So which way is it, prodigal America? Are you coming home to the Father? Join us this Reformation Day in Fort Worth, Texas, October 31st through November 2nd at Will Rogers Event Center, just days before our presidential election. And join with the thousands of us for the blessing of gathering together with God's people and celebrating God's goodness with beer and psalms. Hear from speakers such as Dr. James White, Pastor Toby Sumter, Pastor Doug Wilson, Dr. George Grant, Gabe and Knox, Steve Dace, and more. Don't forget our Business Makers Conference, Jumpy Castles for the kiddos, after parties, single events, the Pastor's Luncheon, the Business Leaders Luncheon, and many more surprises coming. America has squandered her inheritance far too long. It's time she repents and returns home to her Father. Fight, Laugh, Feast presents Prodigal America.
Last night on the mic, Balls and Vans came to fight. VP debate, battling for the left and right. They went at it on abortion, life on the line. Vance said protect the baby, trying to draw that hard line. Every heartbeat.
Check that baby, try and draw a hard line.
Can't build a nation, letting life get shut down.
This is our AI hip-hop summary of the VP debate from last night. Hey y'all, welcome to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's good to be with you, Pastor Toby. I'm the water boy, and Knox is on a shoot, actually. A film shoot, I should say. Yeah. Who knows what that means these days?
Shoot.
Elk shoot?
I can't hear myself.
You can't?
No.
Oh, you need to turn up?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not, no volume in my ears.
Tell me when.
I can't hear nothing.
Check, nothing.
Check. There I am. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Look at us. Look at us in the studio without Knox.
Yeah.
Making it all happen.
Yeah, we don't need you, Knox. Okay, never mind. I'm just kidding. It was a joke. All right. Our friends at Backwards Planning Financial are giving away one custom engraved Mont Blanc pen to a loyal Pub TV subscriber at the end of the year. Pub TV is our club, our pub club, Fight Laugh Feast Club. If you're a club member, Pub TV subscriber, then you are already entered into this drawing, and they're drawing one name at random twice each month to be entered to win at the end of the year. So you're getting drawn a couple times a month. You go into a pile.
And a little Christmas present.
At the end, you get some kind of fancy pen. This month's entry is... Drum roll.
I don't know how to do that.
Drum roll.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No drum roll. Okay. Do I say the name? I say the name. Ralph Cochran. Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
You know Ralph Cochran?
I know Ralph.
Ralph Cochran's the winner.
Good dude.
You're not the winner. You're like the semi-winner. Like you get your name is drawn to be put into a drawing. Mm-hmm. Just kind of like winning, you know. You don't need to do anything, Ralph, except listen to in December to see if you're the big winner of the amazing. It's like a really expensive pen.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
It's great little gift. And Joe, if you guys don't know Joe, he's out of Florida. And
Joe's
they're actually in the it's
in the
Oman, where I'm drawing a blank, but they're in Florida. Anyways, they're planting a CREC church with a group down there in Florida and everything. So good people. Nice. Backwards Financial, love their support.
Discover which cultural issues you need to know about as a Christian and seeker of truth by listening to the weekly podcast Refining Rhetoric with our friend Robert Bortons.
Oh, yeah.
Hosted by Robert Bortons, CEO of the world's leading homeschool support organization, and joined by a prominent expert, author, or thinker. Each episode of Refining Rhetoric explores what it means to seek out biblical truth in a culture permeated with subjective truth. Listen to Refining Rhetoric wherever you stream podcasts, or learn more about the show by visiting classicalconversations.com/FLF. That's classicalconversations.com/FLF. But
you're just over there. Be careful when you open the beer.
It's just over there pouring beer.
Apparently got a little shook in transit and everything.
Shook in transit and everything.
Bring me some Paper towels if you guys got a second. Thanks. So you didn't get me and Knox live streamed the debate last night.
Yeah, no,
we live streamed it with, of course, Greg Moore, Dead Man Walking.
Okay.
And you were part of the CREC Presbytery that we had in town.
Yeah, I was.
So you weren't able.
I was happily ignoring the whole debate.
The whole debate.
I didn't even look it up one time.
So I wasn't gonna let you get away with not hearing some of the debate. Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
I was happily just ignoring it, pretending it didn't happen, pretending it's like,
Well, at some points, it's actually pretty disappointing on both sides.
yeah, okay.
And we'll go through a little bit of that today.
I heard.
But,
the little bit I heard was that JD Vance mopped up.
yeah, I mean, he's just a gifted, smooth guy.
Yeah.
Which makes me nervous.
And he has a beard,
And he has a beard. Apparently, that's intimidating.
which I think is probably the reason why he won.
So I got two views on JD, two contrary views on JD Vance.
Okay.
One is like, he's like the Appalachia kind of guy, right? He grew up there and he came from like poor blue collar
White trash.
life, and he's legitimate VP.
Okay.
The other is he's an FBI informant or something, or CIA plant, or I don't know.
What?
Well, I mean, think about it. He somehow made it to Yale and made it through Yale.
Right.
Okay, so his life, I kind of think, okay, all his life up to that point's true, and then he gets to Yale, and then something happens.
The FBI picked him up. CIA.
They pick up a lot of people out of Yale. In fact, Yale's known for that.
Interesting.
So, and again, JD could be the genuine true guy too. My tentacles are just they're kind of
tentacles.
crossing a little bit, And then think about it. He wrote his book, and then his book turned into a movie.
Yep.
And then he became senator.
Yeah.
And now he became VP. Pretty fast.
Yeah. But he became the VP of Trump.
They need plants in his administration.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you hear the story about who was it? Is it the president or the former president of Iran who somebody was telling me this at lunch today. Didn't you guys hear about this? This is not our notes at all. But
No.
there
We're
was
way off.
he said that apparently or somebody there was like some kind of news press conference about how they had this like undercover program where they were spying on Israel.
Uh-huh.
And then it came out that all these spies that they thought were spying on Israel were actually
CIA?
were Israeli spies spying on Iran.
Oh my goodness.
And they all got out of the country. Apparently,
Yeah, because they had to.
You heard about this story? Anybody hear about this story?
No, I haven't heard about that story.
A friend of mine at lunch just told me. So if that's not true, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I trust this guy. I mean, Steve. He was like, hey, did you hear about this story about the Israeli spies and the Iranians thought they were spying on Israel.
Wow. Yeah.
For them.
Yeah.
But they were actually giving them bad information.
Fool's errands.
Yeah, they were giving them bad information and actually spying on Iran for Israel. Anyways, that's just
that's crazy.
That's what I know about the news today.
Since we're talking conspiracies right now, the JD Vance conspiracy, the Iran-Israel conspiracy, I have a Diddy conspiracy.
Okay.
Think about
Knox, this is what happens when you're not here.
I know.
We just started talking about conspiracy.
We have all
theories.
these videos we're going to play, and we'll get there about the debate. So my Diddy conspiracy is, first of all, I believe it's all true. I believe Diddy's parties and all that and all the stuff.
Corrupt.
All the
perverse
all true.
parties.
But I'm suspicious that how they're slow rolling out information. Like every week there's a new press conference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we found this next week. Oh, there's apparently 120 involved. Oh, there's apparently a 9-year-old involved. Oh, how they're slow rolling it out. I think has to do with something about because there's a lot of high profile people involved in this.
Yeah.
And everyone knows it.
So, like they're giving time to everybody to
or
cover their
they're
tracks.
starting to twist the screws on them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, if you don't obey us,
right,
go for the election, come out for the election, come out and help, plug Kamala, whatever, use your pull, use your sway, whatever. If you don't obey us, we're just going to keep dripping stuff and it's going to get worse. So Diddy's already going down. But the thing about Diddy is, and he might not be going down because he still might be a tool in all this because he hasn't made a statement. I mean, if they were lying about me, Gabe had 120, 9-year-old, all this stuff, I would be livid right now. P. Diddy hadn't said anything. Yeah. And secondly, they could be just like putting the screws on P. Diddy. Hey, we'll let you go free. We'll do the Epstein thing or something.
He already confessed to all of it in all of his songs. Right?
So my suspicions, no.
I mean, isn't that what all his songs were about? Like he was singing about it for years.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a pervert. I'm a pervert.
That's true.
I do perverted things, and you pay me lots of money.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I know any of his songs, but
he had a couple like good songs, like when his uncle died, Mr. Big, not Biggie Smalls. Golly, my mind.
Mr. Big.
Yeah, Mr. Big. That's a rock song. It's not even a Biggie. When Biggie died, he wrote kind of a nice, memorabilia kind of song for him, and that was number one on charts for a long time. But anyways, yeah, a lot of his songs are bad. All right. So let's get to the debate. This is why you want to hear the post debate with Pastor Toby. Toby has not heard really any of the debate, so a lot of these clips are pretty fresh to him. But we're going to start here. This was actually
completely authentic, raw footage of my responses to the debate.
To the debate. So early on, Walls actually quoted the Bible.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. Look, I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans.
Oh, I want to know what he's going to say.
Being a Democrat, he's talking about immigration.
Yeah.
And he brings in Matthew 25:40.
Yeah.
Least of these, taking care of the least of these kind of thing. But that's like a very, and we'll get here, we'll connect more dots later, but that's a very weird Bible verse for Democrats to quote, particularly because their views on abortion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but to the least, they care more about immigrants who aren't part of our nation.
Yeah.
Than the babies in the mother's womb who are part of our nation.
Yeah, I was still stuck on his the first part of the clip. He said that his bill is going to reduce people who are waiting for asylum hearings or whatever to 90 days.
Yeah,
which is just, I mean, when politicians say stuff like that, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
you can't just command things.
Yeah.
The king that commanded the tide not to come in. I mean, like this is like just absolute hubris. Like,
especially the vice president.
You can't, like, right? Especially the
VP.
You can't even. I mean, but you can't just command these things to happen. I mean, people are more complex than just you. can't just pass a law and be like, now it will take 90 days.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, you can't. You just don't do that, and the hubris and the arrogance that says we can solve all your problems. We just pass a bill. I signed a bill.
Yeah,
like you're pretending to be God.
Yeah,
like that's blasphemy.
Yeah.
And then the other thing about the Matthew 25 verse is that it actually says unto the least of these my brethren.
Yeah. Right.
So it's specifically actually talking about your treatment of Jesus's people.
Yeah.
Now I think there's a
broader application,
analogous application. There's a Good Samaritan, parable out there too, and that has to do with your enemies, people that you're, that you don't like. The Jews and the Samaritans were not friendly towards one another. But that particular passage is talking about Jesus people. We're to treat Jesus people that way. The naked, the hungry, the imprisoned, because the reason for that is because the pressure, the social pressure would have been for you to not be associated with Christians who probably ended up naked and hungry and imprisoned because they were being accused of crimes and being rabble rousers and terrorists. And so the social pressure was, maybe I shouldn't associate so much with these Christians who've been arrested or have lost their jobs. That's actually the application in the first instance.
That's good, Toby.
So in this case, the application ought to be with those faithful, like who are the least of these my brethren right now imprisoned?
It's like James Coates, Pastor Wayne Yee.
I would say, it's the pro-life guys that got prison
the Nashville 10.
Yeah, who got time in
who we got coming on tomorrow on the show. Actually,
cool. Okay, but those are it's the people that you're tempted not to want to be associated with.
Yeah,
the people that JD Vance doesn't want to be associated with.
Oof.
That's what.
Because J.D. Vance never made a comment about the Nashville 10.
Yeah.
Trump has. And I think, to be fair, I think Trump has.
Has he actually?
Yeah. So J.D. Vance, true to form. Now, this is on CBS. The previous debate was on
ABC.
ABC. Trump got fact-checked, I think, 4 or 5 times on that debate. Yeah. Well, J.D. Vance got fact-checked 3 times last night, and Walz didn't get fact-checked once, even on his own bills. Hilarious.
Even CBS didn't learn their lesson from ABC? They're just like, just keep fact-checking the Republicans.
So we're going to go through 2 fact-checks. This video's just got them all lumped in one. Okay. But notice there'll be 2 fact-checks, and then the last fact-check that he's fact-checked on, J.D. actually interrupted and responded.
He fact-checked the fact-checkers?
He fact-checked. Yes, correct. Okay. So pay attention to this video. There's 2 fact-checks, and then the last one is where he's getting back on him. Go.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible.
The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process. Nora?
So those 3 fact checks. That last one was very embarrassing because J.D. Vance brought to their attention that they agreed not to fact check.
Yeah.
And they fact checked 3 times. And then the last time, actually, multiple people fact checked J.D. Vance's comments online afterwards. And he was like, yeah, he's 100% correct on how all this immigration happened.
Those ladies are annoying.
100%.
For I don't know how you guys watch this. I would have walked out.
Well, thank goodness, our internet actually petered out, so we didn't watch the whole debate.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
What? Oh my goodness! It's like Karen 1 and Karen 2. Like, I mean, and they're like just like smiling at each other No,
it's pretty difficult. All right, so now getting into kind of more the meat of the debate. We don't have all of JD's arguments, and I actually would recommend go back and listen to all of JD arguments on abortion, defending his and Trump's, or at least Trump's stance on abortion. But here's kind of a little taste of it. Obviously, they went around the wagon on the abortion topic.
Went around the wagon?
The wagon went around the mountain.
What does that mean?
Went around the wagon. It's like
the mountain
Chinese,
went around
Chinese
the wagon.
Fire drill. You know,
I have no idea what you just said, Gabe. Obviously, the mountain went around the wagon.
Yeah, yep. So stay still.
I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means.
But they went around again and again on the issue of abortion.
Okay.
And but here's a taste of JD's arguments on it. Go ahead and roll this clip.
Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
The other argument he also used, there's probably 3 arguments, some kind of personal stories and then kind of states' rights argument here. The other one he said is we have lost the citizens' trust. Republicans have on how to deal with this, and we need to gain their trust back.
Yeah.
So those are very odd.
And did he say that the way to regain their trust was by defending the lives of the unborn?
No. It was I guarantee my take is that he is being counseled by big pro-life EVA or whatever, big pro-life movement on how to talk about this. But
Roman Catholics are better than this.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, he's a Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of Catholics that are better than that.
The best way I can defend JD on his stance on abortion right now is he has to be holden to Trump's stance, or that's how he views it. Yeah. I wouldn't, but that's how he's saying. Yeah. I'm just articulating Trump's.
I just wish that. I can kind of, I don't think I would do it, but I can get my head around like wanting to defend whatever the platform is or whatever the policy plan is. Mm-hmm. But I think you could still say something like,
this is the policy, it's wrong, and we got to make it better.
Right. Well, or no, but I would just love it if we get Republican politicians who claim to be pro-life to preface all their comments by saying, from conception, all human life bears the image of God, and deserves the right to be protected.
Right.
Our policy is, maybe it's this is not ideal. This is not the best. Whatever.
It contradicts the Bible.
But I think it would be a win just to get them to start saying every unborn child bears the image of God and deserves the right to live.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Vance actually thinks that somewhere deep down. Like I think he does.
Yeah.
But he's not saying it.
No.
And
I would say overall this is the most disappointing because this went on probably about 6 minutes back and forth.
Yeah.
And he kept saying things that were just disappointing after disappointment on this.
And he needs to know this is the very thing that loses our trust.
Yeah, that's right.
When 100%. When you're up there playing the politician on this, and we think you know better.
Yep.
Like you're Roman Catholic. Roman Catholics, we have a lot of disagreements with, but the official doctrine is that from conception that's a human life that deserves to be protected and defended. And so you know better.
Yeah.
And you're up there dilly-dallying, what'd you call it? The mountain running around the
running around the wagon, which is going around the mountain.
I think I know what you mean now. I think it's finally come to me. But when you're up there, doing a bunch of political just mishmash, and you're doing it, just playing political games, that's what loses our trust. Yeah. You cannot be trusted. You're playing games. Well, it would be far better just to say, look, I'm a Christian. Life begins at conception.
Yeah.
That should be protected. We live in a country right now that won't criminalize that, and so we're gonna have to leave it up to the states.
Yeah,
like that's at least honest.
Yeah,
it's at least straight. Like I might not. I would want to say no. We need to ban abortion.
Right.
I would just bite the bullet. But if he's not there, he says no. Practically, tactically, this is the play we've got to run. This is the play that Trump has called.
Yeah.
Fine, but be honest about it. Be like, but I personally disagree. I believe this is wrong. This is murder.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and a lot of our conversation last night, we had Greg Moore on the show. Yeah. We had Rod Martin on.
Yeah.
We had William Wolf on, and then we had Marcus Pittman in the studio kind of taking your seat.
Yeah.
And it was really good.
Because he has a red beard also.
It was a really good conversation. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we talked about was how responsive were JD Vance's arguments about abortion instead of being like proactive.
Yeah.
How defensive versus proactive.
Yeah. Right.
And you go through this, and there was multiple times where JD could have been proactive.
Right. It's like, I think part of the reason why it sticks out so much, again, I missed all his comments on the thing, but where I've seen the other clips of him doing this.
Yeah.
And the reason why it sticks out like a sore thumb is because he's actually so competent on so many other areas.
That's right. That's right.
He's articulate.
Yeah.
He makes sense.
Yeah.
He's clear.
Yeah. I feel like he's selling his soul here a little bit.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally think that's what he's doing. I mean, there are other places where I differ with him. He's a little bit more big government than I am, and I'm not there. But he's clear.
Yeah.
He's articulate. When it comes to abortion, he sounds effeminate.
Yeah.
He's masculine.
He sounds defensive. And one of the stories he gave was awful. I mean, it was.
He's selling a soul.
But think of all the ways he could be proactive in this debate.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, Governor Walz, you take the craziest position of murdering babies in the mother's womb.
Right.
Like say that. You got to go, but you got to be proactive. You got to be on the offense,
right?
And then bring up the slavery argument.
Right.
Like what? These aren't people. Just like
Right.
Southern slavery. Really?
Right.
Bring up the on they actually let's go here. This is a great time to bring this in. In Minnesota, you can kill the baby up to 9 months.
Right.
And listen to the argument here.
But we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think,
That's
whether
not
you're
true.
pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals. They get early childhood education. They get health care.
Oh, we care about kids?
Hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
No, they didn't fact check it. The reality is the law is so ambiguous. It absolutely allows for partial birth abortion, and it allows for no help or providing medical care for the baby after it's born in a botched abortion.
Yeah.
Go bring up the law, and it specifically says, so the law is, it doesn't give it any timeline for abortion.
Yeah.
It doesn't give any timeline for can you kill the baby up to 6 weeks or 15 weeks or 9 months. It doesn't do that. And then it gives this massive ambiguous section here. It says local unit of government limitation, limiting the local government, saying a local unit of government may not regulate an individual's ability to freely exercise the fundamental rights set forth in this section in a manner that is more restrictive than that set forth in this section. So the bill's so vague, and then even the local cities and authorities can't even put additional restrictions on top of this bill. So the bill gives zero timeline of when abortion's not allowed.
Yeah.
And there's been 8 cases since this bill's been in place. There's been 8 cases where the abortion was botched, the babies were born. 8 cases, and some of those cases they didn't give them any life-saving treatment. I think they just kind of helped them a little bit, and then 3 of those cases they didn't do anything and just let the babies die.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely allowing for it, because the reason why we know those 8 cases is because the Minnesota requires them to report on the abortions.
Wow.
And those women could have fact checked.
Right. And if it didn't allow for it, and those deaths, even with this horrific law that allowed, the insanity of saying you can kill the baby inside, as long as it's inside the mother's birth canal or in the uterus, that's just insanity. But even granting it and saying, okay, if it's true, then what he's denying, that after a botched abortion, a baby that is born alive, that they do not have a right to kill those babies or let them die, then then it ought to then medical care standards should apply to them in the same way they apply to everybody else. And if they don't, then where are the lawsuits for these wrongful deaths? Where are the lawsuits? Why is if he's so insistent that it does not allow for the deaths of babies after you've botched an abortion, why is he not suing?
And going after.
Why is he not
the
doing that?
illegality of the situation?
I mean, doesn't he care for all the citizens of his state?
Yeah. So I think overall, the Republican Party is going a bad direction when it talks about abortion.
Yeah.
And the Democrats are going at a worse direction.
Yeah, they're talking about reinstating Roe.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah, we need to reinstate Roe
when we
nationally.
reinstate Roe nationally, like, if they could talk that way, why are we doing not have bold Republicans saying things like, when we end abortion in this land?
Right.
When we end abortion in this land. Maybe we can't yet, but that's what we're aiming for.
Someone
we have
said,
like Dusty Devers, that's it.
So someone said that, okay, J.D. Vance, if he gets elected as VP, he has a chance for being in office for 8 years. 4 as VP, 8 as president.
Yep.
And I said, well, maybe we could talk him into asking Dusty Devers to be his VP.
There we go.
And then I would have a problem because I'm like, is Dusty a plant now?
For real.
So yeah, it's a mess there. All right, so let's move on. They talked about the floods, and we want to talk about the floods because there's a number of issues going on there. But here's J.D. Vance getting to addressing the Appalachia flood stuff going on.
Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then of course afterwards to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job. And I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster.
So there's a number of things actually going on in the background that I wish actually would be brought up to the surface better. But one thing you note how she asked this question.
Yeah, it's all a setup for climate change.
Leftist climate change.
Yeah.
So almost all the questions in the debate that were directed at J.D. Vance were like this stated in an anti-Republican-ish conservative way.
Assumed a progressive worldview.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And everything directed at Tim was softballs.
I mean, it'd be like asking
butterflies.
Walz, like, since you're offering babies to Molech.
Exactly.
Like that's the setup. Like that's, I'd be like, if
the gods of climate change, right?
Yeah, which is how we would do the debate, by the way. If Cross Politics gets a chance to do the debate, we'd ask, since abortion is offering babies to Molech and human sacrifice, kind of like the Aztecs and the Nazis.
And my goal in the next number of years is for us to be able to somehow position ourselves to be like the go-to Republican Party debate moderators. That would be awesome. If you guys want to help with that, let me know. What's going on? So first of all, I've been in conversation and texting friends, and what's being reported in the news is still not as bad as what's happening on the ground. That's from friends in Asheville, North Carolina. Secondly, I'm actually trying to find a church in the area because I've had a number of people contact me and say, how can I donate? How can I help? And so I'm looking for a church in the area. I have one that I'm going to be in contact with if I can get in contact with them who are directly in Asheville. So if anybody has any leads, let me know because it'd be maybe even great to do a show to help them fundraise or something like that with our network guys.
There's a CREC church in Boone.
In Boone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How far is that from Asheville?
I think it's a little ways away, but I know they had flooding there.
Yeah. Okay. I know those guys. I should contact and reach out to them.
Yeah.
But secondly, people are constantly saying the federal government's not here. I'm here doing this. There's all these videos going out. There's this guy in this he's got this 501c3 helicopter out there, and he's dropping people off, picking them up, all that stuff. And praise God for him. Awesome. But then the whole point is like the federal government's not here, and we need that knee-jerk reaction to want to appeal to the federal government. Communities help communities. And if you start appealing to some sort of god of the system, it's not going to go well for you in the long run to solve your natural disaster problems. It's not that there could be maybe some layer of help, down the road or something from the federal government, whatever, like repairing the roads, something like that. But your community should help communities, and then next is your state should help your community. So we got it. And there's been so many reports of like businesses stepping up, communities helping communities, where it's like, no, this is actually the way. Elon Musk bringing Starlink over all the communities to give them cell phone and Wi-Fi access to those who aren't going to have it.
Right.
And he's doing it for free. He's opening it for 30 days.
Free market for the win.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
And then this guy with the helicopter doing awesome work.
Right.
Again, that's like, this is how we want it, guys. If you're appealing to the federal government, if you're trying to make a point, I'm going in to help this community, and then you're saying the federal government's not here, that's a political fight you don't want to get into.
Right. You're asking to become slaves.
That's right.
If we're utterly dependent on the federal government to solve our problems, that means that you want to have chains hooked to the government.
That's right.
And the government tells you, all right, this is how you can help. This is how you can assist, which slows everything down. It's clunky, but it's just slavery.
Either you're going to appeal to a greater federal government for help, or you're going to appeal to a greater God for help. I want to be indebted to God. In these situations. I don't want to be indebted to the federal government. Now, the other thing that's going on, and this is just another reason why we need to get rid of all the alphabet bureaucracies. Get rid of them all, and the LGBT included. All the alphabet bureaucracies. So FEMA, first of all, FEMA has been using a lot of their money this last year for like DEI purposes. And white supremacy training and all this weird stuff. And part of it is like actually their number one they list, FEMA's duties are like, here's our top 10 duties or something. Right now, number one is diversity and training. Go to number one.
Oh yeah.
It literally says, I think it's on their website. That's not it. It says number one, diversity and training. Okay. Got to work on the PowerPoint here. There you go. Number one goal. FEMA's number one goal, and this is on their website. See, it's FEMA. Install equity as a foundation of mercy management.
Yeah.
So that's their number one goal.
That's terrifying. Because if you think about equity as being this like this weird kind of racism and classism that says like we need to like
we'll pick up the black people on this roof and the white people will come back to you.
Are there any gays here?
Yeah.
Are there any trannies?
Where's the LGBT people first?
Like people are drowning. They're like, no, number one goal is equity.
Are you a tranny?
Have you been tempted to be a tranny? Do you wish you were?
At this point, yes. Pick me up, rescue me.
but that's. I mean, it's that like you take that and I'm totally making fun of it, and at the same time, like that actually has real world consequences.
Yeah.
Like if you actually start thinking in terms of my job to rescue you is based on stupid superficial things rather than how many people can I get out of the water.
Screwed. Yeah.
Absolutely, we're in trouble.
So here's what's the crazy thing, though. It came out that FEMA this last year alone has spent over $600 million on relocating refugees in the United States, taking care of non-citizens.
Yeah,
FEMA's mission. There's
640 million available funds have been used.
Yep,
distributed through two opportunities, 300 and 340 million. And this is for services associated with non-citizen migrant arrivals in their communities.
Yeah.
Right.
And remember, FEMA means Federal Emergency Management Agency. So it's for federal emergencies.
So it's almost like
natural disasters.
It's almost like we have an emergency with all of these non-citizen migrants based on their spending habits.
Yeah, that's right.
But
that's good, Toby.
It doesn't seem like they're treating it like an emergency.
Yeah. So, but I think part of here's my take a little bit. Again, I'm pretty suspicious right now. To me, we're getting close to election. I feel like all these things are happening, and I'm like, they want the chaos.
You're like the Democrats ordered this hurricane.
No. But they want the chaos.
Yeah,
I think they want the chaos, and then you have basically the same week, union boss from Jersey.
Oh yeah,
he's the union boss in charge of all the
port
ports all the way down to Florida.
Yeah.
So he's one union, and they all the way down to Florida,
and they just and into Texas.
Into Texas?
All the way to Texas,
Oh my gosh.
bro.
I didn't even know that. Why is Texas part of this?
Because it's got ports, bro.
Yeah, I know. But they should have their own union. At least, at minimum, Get rid of your union. And so here's the union boss in an interview talking about the strike. And man, this is just a different kind of evil.
But today's world, it's changing into the future. They're not making millions no more. They're making billions. And they're spending it fast as they make it. I want a piece of that for my men. Because when they made their most money was during COVID. When my men had to go to work on those piers every single day. When everybody stayed home and went to work. Not my men. They died out there with the virus. We all got sick with the virus. We kept them going. From Canada to Maine to Texas, Great Lakes, Puerto Rico, now the Bahamas, everybody went to work during COVID. Nobody stayed home. Well, I want to be compensated for that. I'm not asking for the world. They know what I want. They know what I want. And if they don't, well, then I have to go into the street and we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
Oh, that was the music. I was like, what is going on? Someone's playing music.
First of all, the only reason why he as a union has so much power, because he does, he controls the ports, Maine all the way down to Texas,
right,
is because the government has created structure to where only unions are allowed on ports to do business and to take. I think a ship cannot take its stuff off their ship without a union member present.
Is that right?
Usually, that's how these unions are structured. I could confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that would be how this union's structured.
Wow.
I've worked on union jobs before, and there are certain union jobs, like I couldn't drill a hole in the wall because I wasn't union.
Okay.
Like it's crazy stuff like that. So they put in all these, basically power plays or structures in place that ensures the union job.
Yeah. The thing that this makes me think of is the fact that the government is the biggest union.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the government is, and they run around acting like they can run everything.
Yeah,
and too many conservatives grant them that authority. Right. Like they just. Right. I mean, a bunch of Republicans run around acting like the government has got to do everything, which grants them the union status. Like, we can't get this fixed unless we have a government official. We can't make sure this is okay unless we have a government official. And so it's like the government has created this, not just in terms of the way their union regulations. They've created this by leading the way. They're saying the way you get things done is you run everything. Like this union boss guy.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of funny that he sounds a little bit like Trump, but he's just acting like the government.
Yeah, that's right. He's just playing thug moves like the government.
They're the biggest thugs in the room, and he's a smaller thug, but he's like,
but he's figured out how to pull the leverage.
But I have a lot of power here.
I have a lot of leverage.
And I will make you hurt.
Yeah.
And when you're in, gangland, when you're in thugland, when you're in mobster boss land, well, how do you
It's all power plays.
It's all power plays. And but I think it's it's interesting that he said during COVID.
Yep, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up.
They made all their money.
The docs. Yep. And now he wants a raise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they went from millions to billions.
Yes, right. And I think, but not only did the docs make all their money, there was a bunch of politicians and government officials making money on the COVID crisis.
All the way down to our local city council.
And with all the, ordering the government, send us money, send us money. And that's the thing is, this is actually downstream of this is inflation stuff. Where it's like, you can't just be like, well, these people can make more money. These people can make more money, which is what the government is doing. The government's picking winners and losers, acting like mob bosses. And this guy says, where's my share? I made you a bunch of money.
Yep.
Where's my fair share?
Time to get raised.
So it's hard to object when a whole bunch of the people at the top have created this scenario.
Yep.
They're the greedy thugs, a lot of them, the government officials, the administrators of this administrative state. It's hard,
Well, and it's also crazy that the structure apparently is to work with the president of the United States to solve this contract.
He's just saying that when it gets to that point, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, and it's causing this kind of
and the president
turmoil,
steps in to make him do some things.
Then I don't even understand what he was
But
ordering.
apparently the president somehow is involved with union jobs in Florida.
Yeah, right.
And has some sort of control or say or whatever.
Because he's the big mob boss.
That's right.
He's the big mob boss, and it's like that's not the way it should be.
So economic estimates, once this thing gets in full swing, which it basically is, but then there's, it takes a minute for it to build up in supply chains and so forth, that it's about a $4 billion per day cost to the American economy. $4 billion per day cost. This strike affects 14 key ports along East Coast, Gulf Coast, which are crucial for transportation. Also estimates of they're actually asking something like a 77% raise.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So we got to actually turn pretty quickly because I got to go. We got to get into beer and Psalms real quick. So what's the Psalm of today?
Romans 8.
Romans 8. We actually got one here to play.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to show this for beer and Psalms. This is a single malt whiskey from Tasmania.
Oh.
From our friends from
Tasmania.
Tasmania. The CREC actually has an official member church now in Tasmania.
Yeah, those guys, they're great guys.
And they gave me this scotch after we admitted them. Just for the record, it was after, not before.
Yeah,
not before. But
they wanted to make sure it wasn't a bribe.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Right. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
fair vote.
Lark,
unpersuaded vote.
Yeah, completely. I didn't know it was coming. This is a metrical setting of Romans 8. Who shall the Lord's elect condemn? 'Tis God that justifies their souls, and mercy like a mighty stream o'er all their sins divinely rolls. Who shall adjudge the saints to hell? 'Tis Christ that suffered in their stead, and the salvation to fulfill, behold him rising from the dead. He lives, and sits above, forever interceding there. Who shall divide us from his love, or what shall tempt us to despair? Shall persecution or distress, famine or sword or nakedness? He that hath loved us bears us through, and makes us more than conquerors too.
Yes.
Faith hath an overcoming power. It triumphs in the dying hour. Christ is our life, our joy, our hope, nor can we sink with such a prop. Not all that men on earth can do, nor powers on high, nor powers below, shall cause his mercy to remove, or wean our hearts from Christ our love. This is a pretty glorious,
that's great lyrics.
Fuguing tune.
Yeah.
So the paraphrase of Romans 8 was written by Isaac Watts. And this is set to a fuguing tune called Bridgewater by Louis Edson, who was an early American composer. Mm-hmm. So he's an early American composer. Actually, incidentally, he was from Woodstock, New York. I read about this. He lived 1748 to 1820. He was the
original Woodstock.
He was the original Woodstock. And this is actually one of the Psalms we'll be singing at the Fight, Laugh, Feast conference this year in Fort Worth, Texas. This is on the Psalms list. Is the Psalm list out yet? No?
It's almost in production.
In production. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, so we're going to publish very soon the song packet and the song list, the YouTube list, so you can listen to it with your families and start practicing these hymns and psalms. This is probably the hardest one that we're going to learn to sing. Aaron Snell is going to teach it to us. It's a fuguing tune. You can hear those parts coming in and out. The men start and then the women join. It's quickly become one of our favorites here in Moscow. The central theme is the powerful love of God, which has both justified us, but also the way that it holds us through every trial, all persecution, even to the point of making us more than conquerors.
Amen.
Because he has declared us perfectly righteous in his Son, God is determined to make our lives demonstrate the power of his love. So he's working it out in us. He justifies us, and then our lives prove the reality of his justification.
That's right.
Every one of God's saints become proofs of the resurrection and our forgiveness. Our stories may be marked by false accusations, maybe even real failures at times, sickness, trouble, famine, disaster. But everyone who believes in Christ, everyone who is in Christ, God is determined to glorify them like Christ. He's going to vindicate his name, his work in them, in their lives. Just as Christ conquered sin and death, all those who are in Christ are more than conquerors like him. And so nothing can separate us from his love. This underlines the doctrine of justification as well as God's sovereignty, but also the security of God's saints. Great Christians can and do fall into grave sin, but no true Christian can ever be lost. Jesus said that everyone who believes in him will be raised up on the last day. He also said in John 10, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, and I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand." That's John 10, 27 and 28. You are safe and secure in Christ because your salvation is not dependent on you clinging to Christ. Your salvation is dependent on Christ clinging to you, and he never lets his people go. If you put John 10 together with Romans 8, then nothing, no one, not sin, not the devil, not demons, not false teachers can rip you out of the grasp of Christ. He suffered, bled, and died not to try to save you, but to secure your salvation forever. A true child of God can no more be separated from the power of Christ than Christ can die again. Just playing music? Huh?
I didn't touch a button.
Okay. But this justification before God is massive political. Usually Knox gives me like organs when I'm doing this. Not like, okay,
I touched it.
That's enough.
And it went off.
But this justification before God has massive political and social ramifications. These doctrines give God's people deep peace, joy, and relief. And it is in that place of Christian peace and joy that you're equipped to be useful in this world. Your family needs you to lead with peace, ruling in your heart. Your husband needs you to help with joy, filling your heart. Your parents need your cheerful obedience with the gladness of salvation in your mouth. Your church needs your glad service. Your neighbors need your gracious presence. Your city, your state, your nation needs people who are centered on God's sovereign grace so that you cannot be moved even in the midst of all kinds of turbulent times. This is not a squishy grace that has no hard edges or limits. No, this grace builds families that are made out of one man and one woman who are bound in covenant fidelity and children being raised in the fear of the Lord. This grace builds churches that insist that God's ungarbled word be proclaimed with clarity and boldness. This grace compels godly men to lead those churches and guard those churches through wise and judicious discipline. This grace raises courageous men who enforce just laws, protecting life and property, men who rule on city councils and court commissions, and as judges and governors and legislators who hate covetousness and love the law of God and punish evildoers. All of it is because you have been justified by the God of heaven, and no one can bring a charge against God's elect, because nothing can separate us from the love of God. There's a massive difference between strong leaders who are secure in the justifying love of Christ and the bluster of angry and insecure men and women grasping for control. Good men know they are safe in the sovereign care of God. They are under the sovereign authority of Christ, and therefore they know what their assignments are, and they know that whatever obstacles and suffering they face, they are more than conquerors in his love.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Toby. Excited to sing that at the conference. Romans 8. So if you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbors as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. I have too much on my mind. This is out. See you tomorrow.